Welcome, my friends, to Peace, Love, and Bring It Back, the podcast that never ends, where we gather our clan and talk about the peace and love in our lives, the difficulties along the journey, and how we rise up from them. We will experience a little thing I call Kluberty together, and by the end of the show, we're going to find our sweet spot. I'm Uncle Dave, and our transformation starts right here. Hey now, and how are you doing? Just want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today's guest, we are going to definitely have some seeds of knowledge being dropped upon us because my friend is part of, he has created the human tree. Actually, I want you to say it. Jangee, could you share exactly, I want to make sure that it has the right energy behind it, your organization, about the human tree.
Yeah, well, it's called humanitry.
Humanitry, right?
But it's close. Human tree, humanitry. You know, it's still the same. Yeah. So basically, hello everybody. I'm here at the Yuba River, and in California, and I have something to share with you about something that I've discovered in the past, and that is about a ceremony or a healing experience. It doesn't have to be called a ceremony, where a person digs a hole in the earth about knee deep and stands in the hole, and their friends bring the soil into the hole and pack the soil, and the person becomes a tree for a little while and just roots with the Mother Earth and just stops everything. And for people that, you know, depending on the person, there could be some song sung or like an altar made or a healing mandala, some people call it. And then people get watered in. And then when the person gets out, a tree is planted in that hole dedicated to peace. That, in a nutshell, that's what the humanitry is about.
Which is awesome. I mean, that's the ultimate grounding, right? To feel yourself, you know, and you don't bury your whole self. It goes up to about your knees. I think that's what you and I discussed. Because I was interested in being grounded and planted, as you call it.
Yeah, and to the knees, you know, a lot of people say, is it to the neck, you know, or I want to get planted to the hips. And we found that to the knees is a specific depth. It's still very deep. It's deeper than you would think. And what it does, by getting planted to the knees, it allows for the maximum amount of swaying. We found that, you know, when the soil is packed, you have to imagine for a second, you can lean over and not fall over. And then we call it kind of like a tree yoga, or like circles and kind of swaying back and forth. And so the knees allow that. The other thing that the knees allow for that other parts of the body or deeper plantings wouldn't, is that you can sit down. You know, a lot of people don't realize that when they're getting planted, that you don't have to stand, because if you're getting planted to right below your knees, then the earth functions as a chair. Mm-hmm. And you can, you know, for elders and other people, we can put a pillow down, you know, or someone from a wheelchair can get planted, you know, so it opens it up a lot more. And so, yeah, so you know, and there are some ancient, you know, there are tens of, I would say 10,000 plus year old, or even, you know, maybe even much, much more, rituals where people do get buried to their neck, but it's laying down. Like I've found this in Africa, Asia, in Hawaii, in Europe, in all these places, and some of those will last 3 or 4 days, where you lay down. And in some places, you know, you get up during the day and then lay back down again at night. Someone has to, you know, protect you from the animals. And so what we're doing here is kind of like, it's related to that ancient ritual. And yet at the same time, this is very modern because we are becoming trees, and the water can help us connect with the microorganisms. We're planting the tree. So it's a lot of different, and it mostly only lasts for about an hour or less, sometimes half an hour to an hour. So it moves much more quickly. And at the same time stands still, when you're planted. You've never experienced anything like that. And it can function also for a lot of people as kind of like a milestone or like a mark in their life as to like, everything, like a new chapter in life, like some people use that when they're ready to start something new in their lives and really move, into their truth more and into their love and into their, to get planted. And other people have used this also for releasing old trauma. And so in that case, people would write down ahead of time for maybe even for a couple days of reflecting on things that have happened and what they want to let go. And it's not like that we have to talk about it and process it. It's that it's just written down and the paper's brought and the intention is just put in the hole. And then the earth, the microbes, the soil, the experience, the water, the cosmos helps to take care of that. And it's not like necessarily that one is healed, but just that there's a certain part that is resolved, certain part that is.
Well, there's a huge healing part, right? There's a huge healing part about writing things down and then giving it up to the universe. I've done that with a Phoenix mindset where I, write things down. When I had first finished my first Phoenix article, it was a 30-page document. I printed it out, and then I went to my fire pit and I protected everything, and I burnt it up and I watched it. I intently watched it go, and I felt it released to the universe, and there is that power of it. And you just shared that this type of, ceremony is through other cultures. This is not just something that this is throughout other cultures. How did you learn about this? When did you first hear about this?
Well, I kind of discovered this. This was something that kind of in my life, I've just always felt that I was here for, a certain reason, and somehow discovered getting planted. There was a gardening experience, where we were gardening and we were inviting people to garden. We called it, just gardening for free, with people. And this one guy kind of says to me that he's not sure if he wants to come because he feels so disconnected from the earth. He said he feels there's something wrong with him, that he sits next to plants sometimes for a longer period of time and can watch them wilt. And so I was in the mode of inviting, and I was like, what do I say? I mean, I've never heard of this before. And that saying when someone says that the words fell out of my mouth, meaning that it's not something that that
you were thinking
creating.
About it, right? It comes from a
I was
different
just
source.
asking for help. I was honestly asking the universe for help as to how can I get this guy to agree to come, when that's what I was trying to do, to help gardening. And I just said, hey, brother, if you feel like you can't work or something's going on with you, why don't you come anyway, and we'll just stick you in the ground and plant you like a tree for a little while. And I walked away from that experience not knowing that it completely changed my life. I even have some, I suspect that possibly this person could be one of the ascended ones, and that he never showed up, But and he didn't give me the information, but he facilitated me to come up with this. And we then tried it out. And then, people had such the phenomenal experience when we tried it. And that it just grew and grew and grew. And then, so I've planted between 2,000 and 3,000 people, and have, I was wondering in the beginning, when will I meet the person after they get planted that just tell me that they didn't feel anything? And that person hasn't appeared yet, meaning every single person I've met has had a transformative experience to just standing in the earth, breathing, getting watered in, swaying, coming out, and then it was, then as the growth of the movement, as it took more form, we added the idea of planting a tree. I mean, there was the idea in the beginning of planting a tree, but it wasn't a requirement. And now the name changed from people planting to humanity. And now the idea is that we only do this process with planting a tree. And for a lot of people, David, that's one of the biggest challenges that they have with joining this, what I would call a movement of people, is finding a place to plant a tree. It sounds so simple. And at the same time, where? What kind of tree? Oh, and how do I take care of it and everything? It's much more difficult than what people were doing with like the ice bucket challenge, where it's like, okay, put some ice and water, dump it on the head, take a picture, and and planting, so planting a tree, but at the same time, we have kind of like committed to this idea of planting a tree, because even if it takes a person a long time to find a place to plant a tree, that's part of the grounding therapy.
That's exactly it. It's that intention, right? When we're looking at things, that intention to actually think about where you want to plant the tree, where you want to be planted, and the tree, and then it's the constant care, which will then be a great, touching stone to really always remember that ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, because you and I have talked about it, and I'm sure, and I know it will happen, and I'm just, pointing this out that, that for some people it's going to be easy finding a place to plant a tree because that's what they're already doing. Mm-hmm. And for other people that have never planted a tree, as easy as it sounds, there are a lot of things to be involved in. I mean, do you need to have a gopher cage because of gophers? Does it, what kind of tree goes there, and who's going to water it? How's it going to be taken care of? You can't just go out to a random spot, plant a tree, plant a tree and run away.
Right.
Doesn't work.
Right. It's that whole intention, and putting the intentions behind it. That's the idea of the ceremony. And the fact that you've done it with 2,000 people, and I know at one point we were talking about that you had some conversations with some, Hollywood stars and stars who are really interested in talking about it. And I'm not asking you to give any names, but that it's not just this random idea that people are not buying into. There's a lot of people who are starting to buy into this idea of the grounding and the healing that's done in this type of ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like part of the bigger vision, meaning that, the core vision is just that we can all do this. We have instructions that people can have. It's really easy to learn, and people can make their own. And what I mean with that is, when I say it's a ceremony, or you don't have to use that word, is that person can really, as long as they follow the physical aspects of how to do it, which is what we teach people, what I teach people, and is that they can do it really however they want. If you want to go in your backyard and invite some of your grandkids or invite your kids or just invite some friends over. You do it however you want, So some people have gotten planted and prayed to Jesus, and held the Bible. And that's because that's who they are. That's what they are. And another person might get planted and they want to play a saxophone. And another person might be Buddhist, and another person might have no religion or doesn't really add any spiritual things to it. So it's really adaptable, and the idea is that anyone can do it. As long as there's a place to plant a tree, that it's totally doable. It can be as easy and silly as we want. It can be ceremonial, and it can be more therapeutic, depending on what kind of energy people want to put into it.
Sure, because that's what it is. It becomes very personalized because everybody and each tree, if we look at it, each tree is different, has their own unique marks, and the experience would be different. So if you want to call it not a ceremony, it's an experience. It's an experience that you choose to what energy. Nobody has to do it, but it sounds so releasing and to be the real true grounding. And when we think about what grounding really is, it really is preparing for us for something else. And that's what you're also doing, is preparing for that tree to grow and take care of yourself.
Right. And then, back to the bigger vision, which I was just mentioning, just backing up, that the core vision is what it's about. You and I getting planted, and whoever is, listening here or that it's about us. And then there's the part about how can we organize and can we reach some of the more influential people on the planet. And if you think this through with me for a second, if we can get, if there are celebrities that want to do this, or some people with more resources that want to do this, and just like taking someone, who's like on that big world stage, and we're just like, yeah, can you just plug in? Can you just stop and plug into the earth? The idea behind this is that, for all of us, I believe, are carrying some form of personal, historical, ancestral, global, trauma because of what's been happening and what is happening. And, so it's important for all of us. And it can be important on a world stage that people getting planted and rooted, they might make better decisions. I mean, the whole thing is based on rooting, slowing down, breathing. And from that point, maybe there's some really great feelings, that I've observed. And then also for some people, it becomes very subtle, where like a month or two later, they've just connected the dots and made different decisions because their consciousness was more grounded and rooted. Now, if somebody on the world stage gets planted and they have all these resources and all this influence, that's going to make some change in this world. So in a sense, we want to revolutionize our humanity. We want to invigorate, ground our humanity, root with the earth. And that's where we get into, this whole idea that even just the messaging and the imagery of what we're doing, of reuniting, reconnecting, coming down with the human consciousness, that the consciousness uniting with the earth will allow us to create systems and lives and families and everything that is connected with the harmony of all life, instead of having this humanity that's creating, a lot of discord with nature and a lot of, and so even technology. I believe that I'm not against technology. I am against using technology in a harmonious way. That I believe that if we can get our consciousness roots down, even people in the tech industry, people that have all kinds of ideas for humanity, people that want to fly to Mars, that by rooting our consciousness with the earth, it allows all that to happen. All the ideas that we have can happen in a sustainable way, and in a way where we're spreading, love and kindness,
We'll be back in a moment.
Beep, beep, beep. We are interrupting this show to tell you about our podcast with a very special announcement.
Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying your podcast, what you're listening to right now. But I would like to tell you about another one.
We are Sounds Like Autism,
Produced by Launchpad 516 Studios,
which is full of impactful programming.
It's the podcast that celebrates neurodiversity by speaking to the people who are helping to create a more inclusive world.
I am Dave Thompson. I am an educator and an innovator and a leader within the space of helping the world become a more inclusive place for neurodivergent people as a neurodivergent self-advocate myself. And my co-host, Josh Mirsky, is an incredible, hardworking, big picture dude who is on the autism spectrum and super stoked to spread his message of inclusion along with me.
We've had folks on from all over, all walks of life, all over the country, and more.
You don't need to be someone who is autistic yourself or have skin in the game. You don't need a family member or a neighbor who is autistic. You probably have one, but you don't need any of that to get stoked on neurodiversity and inclusion. We're confident that if you give us a shot, if you join us on our journey, that you'll be a lifer and you'll be fully invested in this mission. We are just so delighted and honored to have this kind of platform to share with you all what we do. Check us out.
I hope you enjoy your current podcast, and then after that, skedaddle and come right over here to Sounds Like Autism and check us out.
Now, back to the show.
You're listening to Peace, Love, and Bring It Back with me, Uncle Dave Shemetsky. Well, that's what it is when we're able to clear ourselves. So again, we're using the metaphors around planting. When you clear the right space and you then prepare this space for growth, and that it becomes so much powerful, and we don't know what then happens. It's because of those intentions, and using the intentions are always where the power is. Using our own intentions, and when you're planted, it's all you. The experience is to celebrate you and releasing the traumas or the energy that you want to put into it. The positive energies of growth and continuation.
Yeah, and one of the things that I can say about this that I think is wonderful is that this is new. Even though I've been doing it for a while, this is like we're bringing this into, down into the human, in for humanity. And we have, this great opportunity to do something incredible and make everything, make it right. And just one person, one tree at a time. It's just like the real movement, not just like, trying to do something on a global humanity level without that. The most like what we say in the humanity in our movement, what we say is, you are the most important person in the world. Mm-hmm. And so, Dave, for you to get planted is the most important thing in the whole world, and in what you're, and who you are, and what you're doing, and how amazing you are, and the whole movement is about, growing appreciation for our humanity, appreciation, that love, that that sharing, that we can make a positive world, and that we are here, and a lot of people have lost faith, and lost hope, and especially with the climate crisis and everything, and here, and this is also for a lot of the youth who are just like waking up into this world, and the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket, and just that humanity is going to be destroyed because of climate change, and that anxiety that comes with that, the huge amount of anxiety from the youth that I feel and that I can see, and anxiety from everybody actually. And the idea is that, and here we can take a small action that is different than writing a letter, is different than protesting, demonstrating, holding a sign. This is one where it helps us as an individual. It makes us stronger. It helps to, root our own anxiety. It empowers us. And we're planting a tree, which is part of that solution. So then all of a sudden people become part of something greater than themselves that is the solution, and so, and just growing, evolving, just more love. Love is the answer, and then and the question is, how do we get there? How, with all this stuff happening, is how do we get there? And so if we can just start with ourselves, like a lot of the wise people do say, which is, if you want to change the world, you need to change yourself. Yep. And we have something where we can all change ourselves in our own way, yet a collective movement, a collective message. And, and the message is like, it's really simple. Slow down. Connect.
Well, that's exactly it, right? If you're going to be a tree, you have to realize that, right? A tree doesn't grow overnight. It doesn't grow in a week. It's slowing down and watching that process. And it's the day-to-day paying attention, nurturing it, and that's what we have to do for ourselves as well. And that's why this planting, the humanitary movement can really take on, especially now when we need this even more. The slowing down of the world, not speeding up. That was one of the things we learned during this pandemic. Is slowing down wasn't the worst thing in the world. We were able to recharge and be reinvigorated. So I think those are all real powerful messages that you and the movement is giving.
And you know what? It's funny is that since I've discovered this, about 20 years ago, every single year since I've discovered this, it's become more, how should I say, more important. It's become more like a need for it. So it's like every year it just becomes more and more and more. In this case right now, we can say, okay, we've just added 2 years of emotional, economic, medical trauma to our experiences. Planting a tree and rooting helps us in these times, and a lot of us that are in this movement will get planted all the time, that we're doing this earth therapy all the time. And the beautiful thing is every time we do it, another tree is planted.
Well, that's the real powerful part, is that now you're planting a tree as well through everybody's experience. And that's just adding the more value. Again, each tree is going to help us. It's going to help us with in so many different ways. Not only in the not economically, but environmentally, we're going to be doing it as well as emotionally.
Right, and just that some people, it's fine if you just do it. People just do it just once. That's fine. And just the idea that the human person would have a tree that's growing where, because the idea is that when you get planted, Dave, that there is we don't know what, and I don't know how much, but there's some form of transformation that's happening for you, right? Something is happening for you. And this tree is living in that same spot, it's almost like a quantum connection.
Yep, it's a marker. And trees, it's been found that trees have their own communication system, that they really do communicate with each other.
Right. And if we can imagine, if we can get humanity on this, in this movement, that we have a tree that everybody has a tree that's alive, and if the tree dies, it's okay, because things happen in nature. Do it again. Like
Right.
just
It
don't
regrows.
even
It
worry
regrows
about
from its own. Right. All the dead tree eventually gives itself up to grow the other trees around it, or the environment. It's a healthy process of
Yeah.
transition.
So the different kinds of settings that would work, in the humanity would be in some cases is we're growing a forest, and then people get planted, and the tree is a native tree, and we're growing a forest, and those trees will need help for about 2 to 3 years. Meaning that there needs to be a program set up for watering the first 2 years, about 2 years. Or it can be more like we're planting fruit trees in a food forest, and people are going to be eating from this. And we can get, a community of people planted and growing a food forest. Or it can be just a couple trees or a tree in the backyard. And the key is, a location where the trees will be taken care of. I have planted in a couple situations where there was a park involved and rangers, and we got the permission ahead of time, and the park committed to taking care of the trees. The relationship that we had was that we would provide the trees that they wanted, meaning that they didn't have to buy the trees, and that they would help take care of the trees. But at the same time, that's a lot of red tape,
Sure.
So for the most part, until there's more organization and organizing, is just doing it on private property probably is the easiest way to do it. And that said, about the organizing, if anybody feels something in their spirit, in their soul about what we're talking about here, is that we would love help organizing.
So
There's so
how
many
would somebody
things about bringing this into schools, organizing it, and Dave and I have talked about before about organizing also a nonprofit component, to be able to bring it into schools, elderly homes, even working with mental institutions, and also like planting the celebrities, like you were mentioning before. All that is more of an organized version. We will continue. It'll continue to be a grassroots movement, meaning like you can just learn about how to do it for free and just do it. And then we also want to evolve, the more organized version, and that can evolve also into people having a salary at that point, which I think is kind of exciting, that we can grow something and somebody could actually, create their livelihood through organizing this, and it's just, so anybody that, obviously the first step is getting planted. It's not, you don't need to come and organize, because the reason, I've actually had that happen before, where people say, I want to help this. I totally want to dedicate my life and help this, but they didn't get planted. And what happened was that, part of who we are and what this is, again, you are the most important person in the world, idea, and, or energy, is that it's for the person. If a person wants to help, then it's just the movement wants to help you. And so that's where it all begins. It all begins just trying it out, and in some cases, the hole can be dug, and sometimes people stay in the hole 20 minutes, which is not very long. At the same time, it works. I've observed it. I've observed hundreds of plantings. What I'm doing is I'm observing, I'm helping, I'm facilitating, but I'm also looking at like a person's getting watered, and there's some situations, their friends were singing songs, in some places even like circling around them. Each person took a little bit of water, the person swaying some more. And in some cases, 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes, the person just feels done. And what's interesting about that is that because there were so many people that had a similar amount of time that they stayed planted, that I can say from my own research, looking, observing, that something completes itself. And it doesn't mean that the person, is done with the therapy. They might do it again, but there's something in that session, or in that experience.
Each experience gives you that level of completion, and you don't know how long it's going to be for each individual. How would somebody, to be part of the movement, how would somebody contact you? I know, you and I found each other on Facebook, and we've built a friendship. Are there other ways?
Facebook and Messenger is good. Email is good. You can put, I can give you all the information to, put in. We do have a website. And then we also have a Facebook group. I personally think I really like personal contact. I make myself available, speak with hundreds of people instead of setting it up to where a person just learns how to do the process themselves. I like to, I kind of believe that kind of like you and I, Dave, like this interview or this conversation isn't just growing out of nowhere. It's that we've been growing our friendship, and that's how I like to go with everybody, is grow friendship, and together we can grow, the movement. So I'm available on all channels. In a sense, so email and Messenger, and if somebody wants my phone number, they can get that as well. They can just call me up or set up.
Right, and that's how you and I have done this. You and I have been talking for 2 or 3 years at this point, if not longer, and it has been really a great journey and being on the path together. And I really would be interested. I need to find the right location. As you said, it's not easy to just say plant a tree is easy. You could do it anywhere, but if you are going with the intention that you want to make sure it lives and put the right intentions into it, you do need to plan out it a lot better.
And what's nice about finding the right spot is that it's, instead of me or the movement saying, oh, yeah, we have some friends in New York, why don't you go over to this place and you can do it, which on some level we can definitely evolve in that direction just to make it easier for our humans. At the same time, if you find a place, most likely it's a spot that you can come back to.
Right.
And that you already have some connection with. So it's like a mycelium. It's the underground connections that help with that. And, visiting the tree is a very important component. Mm-hmm. And if it's a stranger's land, they might not be interested in people coming to be, I've had that situation where, yes, you can come plant trees, but we don't want people to necessarily come back, and that's kind of sad then,
Yep.
But it still works. And just back to planting a tree, that a lot of the cultures that I have just, researched and just, talked with people who are alive in this present day, some of them still practice this, and it was practiced, a lot before, which is basically when people were born, the parents would take the placenta and plant a tree. Mm. And as a cultural, as something that this tree, and if you slice open a placenta sideways, slice it open, it looks like a tree. All the veins inside of it that was feeding us to branching out, it looks exactly like a tree. And so, my friends in Africa who live in villages and stuff told me this, that in the past, this is what we did. And so, in a way, that could be, that for a lot of us, there's something missing, that the placenta didn't get planted with a tree, or in some cultures, the placenta is just buried at an already living tree. not just planting a tree, but that this idea of us now in this present age, getting planted and planting a tree kind of brings back this balance restores the balance of what was supposed to happen in the first place. And so it reunites us back with the tree, and the tree of life, the tree, even the European, the Celtic stories. Have you heard of the tree of life from the Celtic?
Not from the Celtic, no.
Yeah, I think it's called it's YGRADY. I'm totally chopping this up. I'm sorry, but Yggdrasil or something. I'm sorry. That's anyway. It's another of the cultures that have you can look it up.
But that's the important part, is that it's all cultures. That it's not just one culture. It's not just an African culture. It's the
yes.
Celtic, and it's a Asian. It's a Pacific.
Yeah. So the Aztecs had a tree of life. The Africans have a tree of life. The Asians have a tree of life. The Europeans have a tree of life. And so this, reunites us. Even, in the Bible, we talk about the tree of life.
Right.
And, or not even in the Bible. I mean, in the Bible.
Right.
And there's there's even a scripture in the Bible that says, and when you get planted like a tree. And then the rest is about down by the riverside. And it's supposed to mean that when you live in righteousness, with God's way, that is the idea of getting planted. And at the same time, though, for us to do a movement that's physically doing something that we discovered, and to have the words, and when you get planted like a tree, and we're planting people like a tree. And so I think it's amazing. And so, and for, and there are a lot of people that, that are not as spiritual or don't want a religious thing. That's totally wonderful. My parents, got planted last year, and they've been married for over 50 years, and they were planted next to each other, holding hands, and swing and singing a song that we had queued up to play, which is, one of the lines in the song is that I'll never find another you.
Awesome.
And so it was a testament of their love. So really what we can say is that you can get plant a tree, and it can just be a testament of growth and the solution towards a sustainable world.
That's awesome.
We don't have to have any of the other color. All the other, we can add in the other color and paint a picture, through ceremony and details and prayers and everything. But you know what? It still works without any of it. And that's what I think is magical. So there's something happening. What I believe what's happening is that when we pour the water, and is that the microbes in the soil, millions and billions of microbes in the soil are touching the skin of the legs. And there have been studies when people garden and without gloves and put their hands in the soil, that endorphins are released in the brain. And the researchers, you can look this up, endorphins in gardening and as much as Prozac.
Wow.
That, so there's something real that's happening.
It's all about the chemistry, right? It's all about that quantum chemistry that we have in our lives, and that's what we do. So I know we've taken up a lot of time, and there's a lot. I know there's a lot more that we can continue to talk about, but I just want to be respectful of everybody's time. And I know you're out there really right next to the river. For those, I'm watching the conversation as he has the trees in the background right next to the river. It's beautiful, right by it's the Yuma River in California. So I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and maybe we will revisit. Like I said, we're going to keep working on this. I need to find the right location so I could be planted. I'd love to be planted.
Wonderful. Yeah. And just a shout out to everybody here, on Earth, that's here on Earth to make a wonderful world, to make the world better. Let's work together. Let's join together. Let's join forces. And we can do it. We have hope. We have something that we've discovered that works.
Yep, exactly.
Get planted, get rooted, grow a tree. Right on. Thanks,
I guess it really is finding that peace and love and that energy that we have. And then instead of taking a sweet spot, find your sweet spot to plant yourself on. And that's what I always talk about, that sweet spot. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you for your time, and thank you. And we all want to join the humanitarian movement.
Awesome.
I'm really glad that you're enjoying our show. Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat is brought to you by Launchpad 516 Studios. Executive produced by David Chemetsky and George Andriopoulos. Music selections by James Grant, Zach Nelson, and James Gaither, and licensed through Storyblock. Sound effects and sponsorship music licensed through Epidemic Sound. Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat is hosted with Podbean. Subscribe to our show wherever podcasts are available. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and share with all of your friends. Follow us on Facebook at Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Follow me, Uncle Dave Chemetsky, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse. You can find all those links and more info at davidchemetsky.com. For show ideas, feedback, guest inquiries, or just a chat, reach out to me at peacelovebringabat@gmail.com. For sponsorship and media inquiries, reach out to peacelovebringabat@lp516.com. Make sure to follow all the great podcasts produced by Launchpad 516 Studios. Today's journey has come to a close, my friends. I hope the seeds of peace and love continue to grow for each one of you. Remember that peace and love surrounds you and will assist you to rise again. But don't forget to bring it back for what you believe in. Namaste.